English translation, 290th contact. Sunday, 24th September, 2000, 21.14 hours. Thought transmission contact.
I have just arrived here again, and you are already calling me. What is so urgent?
We just discussed it some time ago about the term pagan that you used in the last contact. In our religious view of the world, however, this word means as much as non-Christian or not belonging to a recognized religion. Can you tell me the meaning of the word, how you understand it, and what its actual origin is?
Certainly. The origin can be found in the early ancient Greek language, and the actual meaning is foreign tribes' stupid cult. So the term in no wise has anything to do with Christianity or with any other religion which has adopted the terms heathen, pagans and pagan, in order to thereby designate, according to their religion, non-believers. So in Christianity, thus non-Christians, in Islam, non-Muslims, and in Judaism, Gentiles, etc.
Thank you very much for your explanations. But may I still ask whether you have found out anything in the meantime regarding our great observation of the 16th September 2000, which was also seen from Bern?
Northern Lights by Piers Keller and Bernadette Brand, Switzerland.
After the peace meditation on the third Saturday of the month, this time it was the 16th September 2000. After a short break, we are usually still occupied with group internals. As usual, everyone rushed into the kitchen this Saturday after the meditation to stock up with coffee, other drinks, sweets, and fruits to survive the coming hour undamaged. Normally it continues 10 minutes after the meditation, that is to say at 21:30 HRRs. That evening, Billy, Pius, Edith, who prepared a coffee for Billy and I, were a little late. Billy, Pius, and I, Bernadette, went outside at about 21:32 hours to go into the hall. On the house square, Billy noticed a light he saw between the trees. Pius and I stopped and also looked at the light moving from southwest to north, which I quickly spotted as an airplane. After a few moments, I went on and entered the hall, while Pius stayed with Billy and watched the light. In the meantime, the two men went to the court lamp below the house and looked further at the light. After Bernadette had moved away, Billy and I, Pius, continued to follow the light that shone brighter and brighter between the branches of the tree. Apparently, it was in a slow climb and got bigger and bigger. Edith, who had also appeared on the parking lot in the meantime and had quickly noticed that Billy and I were observing something, went to the court lamp at the western corner of the house and shouted to us that we should also get there, because from there the light could be observed better. We went quickly to Edith and could observe the big, bright light well, beside which I had noticed a small, weaker light for a while which moved fast. Suddenly, Billy became aware of it and said, "Look, there is another one. It is certainly part of the big one." Silvano and Patrick Chanot joined us and took note of the two objects excitedly. At that moment, Billy turned to me and asked me, "Run into the hall and get the others." As soon as I, Bernadette, had taken my place in the hall, Pius flew up the stairs and shouted out loud, "Come quickly, there are ships in the sky." Of course, nobody wanted to miss that, and already all of them rumbled together as fast as they could out of the hall and ran down to the court lamp, anxious to see what could be seen. Within seconds, practically all core group members stood on the concreted square in front of the western court lamp and watched what was happening in the north. In the meantime, not only 2 lights were visible, but already 5, 3 of which stood completely still. 2 of them were moving slowly, and in between at least 3 airplanes were moving in different directions. Of the 5 lights, 2 slowly shone very brightly and radiantly, while 2 other bright objects approached slowly from the northeast, and an 8th joined the other lights from the west. Like a constellation, they stood above the northern horizon, some larger and brighter, while others were smaller and weaker. One of the two lights, which shone slowly, became larger and larger as it brightened until it was at least 6 to 10 times its original size, and shone almost like a huge spotlight. I have not seen such a bright and big object for many years. That is like in the early days. It was like that back then, Bernadette was heard to say. Some of the lights, which had stood still before, began to move slowly, and one or the other began to flash in an airplane-like rhythm. This irritated some core group members who thought it was only the headlights of airplanes, and therefore soon turned away to observe a small, dimly lit telemeter disc which moved at an even speed directly over the zenith. "At least I am sure it is a telemeter disc," we heard Andreas say. While a part of the core group members turned away, movement came into the objects, and one or the other suddenly disappeared from the picture surface until, apart from the radiantly bright and quietly pulsating big light, only two more stood in the sky. Slowly, the radiant power of the largest and brightest object diminished, and it became smaller and smaller. After all, it was no bigger than the position lights of an airplane, whereupon it quickly began to move away and suddenly disappeared as the last object. What remained were only the usual airplanes, which moved quite fast over the sky. When going back, one could hear some people say that it could only have been the headlights of airplanes, and that one could often see them that way since Swissair had changed its approach and departure corridors. But which aircraft headlights can be observed during the 10-minute flight? And which aircraft headlight is so large and bright in the sky that you might think you are looking directly at a small sun? These details and the fact that the objects, in contrast to airplanes, only moved extremely slowly, or not at all from the place for a while, apparently escaped also some of the more experienced observers, who were quite obviously deceived by the flashing of the objects when flying away, and did not notice that the flashing interval was completely different than with the airplanes known to us. The fact that they could not have been airplanes was first confirmed to us by telephone on Sunday evening. Connie Guns, the daughter of Atlantis Meier's life partner, called us and told us that together with a colleague and other uninvolved passers-by from the Lorraine Bridge in the city of Bern, they were able to observe a nightly light spectacle in the northern sky on Saturday evening at about 21. 30 hours up to 20 more or less brightly shining objects had been involved, of which at least one had shone extraordinarily brightly and large. Billy asked her to record her experience as a small report and to make it available to us for publication, which she also promised him. On the 19th of September, Billy then asked Ta for the mysterious lights during a telepathic contact, because some of us hoped that the lights might have been a Plejaren demonstration. Ta made it clear that it was not Plejaren ships we had seen, and he promised Billy that he would try to clarify the matter. A few days later, Billy told us that Ta thought it possible that the lights might have been ships of Asina's people, but that they had not yet found the spaceships. Asina was stranded on Earth in 1977 with a ship and found her way back to her home planet only with the help of Billy and Quetzal. The return was so hasty that Billy and Asina could not talk to each other before returning home, although this was actually planned. On the 26th of September, Ptah explained that he had to stop work on the Sim Yase block at 22 hours instead of 23 hours as usual, because he still had some work to do. Billy went straight to his office and locked the door behind him, apparently expecting Ta. When he turned around, Ptah was standing in the middle of his office, accompanied by Asina, and Asina fell around his neck, beaming with joy, and thanking him from the bottom of her heart for his help. The following conversation also revealed that Asina's people were on an expedition with an armada of 21 ships, and had only come to Earth to thank Billy for his help. So it had really been the ships of Asina's people that we had seen, and that materialized that evening exactly. Above the Feldberg near Stuttgart, and gave their impressive demonstration especially for Billy and us. What an impressive spectacle. As a simple thank you, it is up to us to thank Asina for the spectacular demonstration, because we could not observe anything comparable for many years in the night. A drop of bitterness, however, is the fact that many could have watched the nightly performance if only the Earth humans had not been so blind and prejudiced about world history. Unfortunately, everything that moves in the sky is still considered to be airplanes. Satellites are something else, because one does not take the trouble of intensive observation and more exact viewing, which is extremely unfortunate.
Special sighting by Connie Guns, Switzerland.
It was just a normal Saturday night. We were invited to a friend's birthday party. Since I still had something to do urgently, I asked a colleague to accompany me. Around 21:15 hours, we two, Danu, Daniel and I, left the party. Around 21:30 hours, we crossed the Lorraine Bridge by car in a southerly direction. My colleague, who was sitting next to me, looked past me through the driver's window towards the Corso. Suddenly, he pushed me into the side and drew my attention to the fact that there was something unusual in the sky. I also turned my head to the east and saw 10 to 20 fireworks-like light balls about the size of ping-pong balls. The objects moved with moderate speed and in an angle of approx. 30 cads in northeastern direction. On the Lorraine Bridge stood about 5 to 10 people, who also followed the spectacle with their mouths open. Unfortunately, I could not just stop on the roadway, because an accident had already happened directly in front of us. So we could follow the spectacle only for about 3 minutes. When we drove back the same way after about 20 minutes, the spectacle was over.
In the meantime, we have already gained some insights, and I think that we will be able to clarify the incident by next Tuesday, 26th of September at the latest, after which I will then inform you of our result.
Thank you. So thus until then.
I will contact you again on Tuesday evening regarding the contact report work. Then I can also tell you our result, what our investigations and clarifications have resulted in. Until then, have a good time. Salome.
Salome as well.